a lot of people in this industry too, and wholesaling in general, like it's a hustle. Like it seems like this industry is kind of designed for hustlers.
Hey, how you doing, guys? Welcome to another episode of A-List Conversations. My name is Julian Castle. Today, I got Tony Mont. He is a business partner with Eric Cline and Shyla, his wife, and they've got a crazy journey. They've had sales and marketing experience, but they're new to the wholesaling game, and they've done crazy numbers. So in the last 2.5 years, they've done 350 transactions and a total of $7 million in wholesale assignment fees. And they had no prior experience to wholesaling before, so we're going to talk about this now, and we're going to uncover some of the secrets to success of what seems to be like a crazy overnight, rocket ship. So, Tony Mons, thank you for coming. How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me. It's funny, right when we got into this industry, it was about 2.5 years ago. And within like the first 6 months, we were hitting like $300,000 to $400,000 months in assignment fees. And we had a very small team back then. It was literally just me, Eric, and Shyla in the beginning. And within 6 months, we might have had 2 to 3 closers and acquisitions and just one other disposition person and myself. So we were running really lean. This was back in 2021. And we hit the ground running and just brought a ton of experience with sales and marketing, and just kind of inputted real estate for the wholesale side of things, and found a lot of success. And everybody's like, where the hell did these guys come from? It's like, who are these overnight success stories? But in reality, Eric and Shyla come from a sales and marketing background in another industry. And I owned the biggest, highest volume bicycle shop in San Diego for 13 years. So we brought all that experience to this space, which is, a lot of sales, a lot of marketing, a lot of structuring, a lot of building teams and building businesses and managing and implementing and having, the vision to do so. So when we got into this industry, we had some capital and we had a lot of knowledge. So we just, scaled accordingly.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, you guys are in a rocket ship, to be honest. You guys were just sharpening your axes, and then you just came into the show and you start chopping trees like it's nothing.
That's it.
So I want to know, obviously, since you had no prior experience, who were the people that kind of taught you guys, whether indirect mentors or direct mentors, that kind of taught you the ropes, the game of this new industry?
Yeah, there was a few people really. So we had joined the All In group with Carlos Reyes first, and that was the mastermind we were involved with for the first year, and we gained a lot of knowledge from them. We had some friends down in Florida that were wholesaling that we were able to ask questions in real time, and I got to be really good friends with David Olds. Who's just like the godfather in this industry. And he was known as kind of the dispo godfather when I started. And I was implementing a lot of things he was doing and kind of critiquing my process. But he's somebody I got to meet and become good friends with. So to this day, I'll say that, David Olds to this day is still somebody I can call, get on the phone, ask a question about a process in dispo or a problem we're having in transactions, and he can solve that problem for me in 5 seconds. And I've learned the most from that man. So shout out to David Olds for everything he does for me. Like, I have a lot of people that reach out to me and ask me questions, and I know how much that means to them, that they can get answers out of me. And I have the knowledge because I do this every single day. I've put in thousands of hours, but he's somebody that's been doing it a lot longer than me, and I gain a lot of knowledge from that man.
Yeah, that's amazing. Shout out to David. That's great. And so from what I hear correctly, they were the people that really got you into this industry. And when you first started did you start in acquisitions, or did you start doing dispo right away?
Yeah, so I got here to North Carolina, and Eric had already been locking up deals for a couple months, just trying to prove the point that, hey, this is a viable business and we can do this. And when I got here, it was literally just Eric in an office that we rented, and he was by himself. He was in the back room in his office, just locking up deals. And I got here, and we had no real plan on, in the beginning, we were like, if we could just do 100 grand a month, that would be great. And that was kind of our first goal. And it was just like, we just came from industries and a lot of ups and downs. And we were just kind of beat up from our other industries. And we were just like, let's just grow a small team, do 100 grand a month, and just kind of ride off into the sunset. And we had no plan on whose roles were going to be what. And I got on the phones on acquisitions, first. And after listening to Eric pitch for a couple of days and reading the script, I came in on the third day and clicked on the first lead. It was a cold call lead in Florida, and ended up getting a commitment from that first lead I ever clicked on in acquisitions. Wow. And sent him the contract. He didn't sign that day, but he signed, I think, the day after, or maybe 2 days after. So literally the first call I ever made on acquisitions ended up locking up that deal, which was awesome. But, right when I locked that deal up, me and Eric kind of looked at each other. We're like, do we really need 2 acquisitions and JV all of our deals? Or, what can I do to benefit the company? And that was, blaring that we needed a disposition department. So that's when I started doing dispo and started building my process, which is ever changing with the market. I mean, we don't have the same process we did 6 months ago. We don't have the same one we had 2 years ago, definitely. So yeah. I'm constantly changing. I'm on the sales floor all day, every day, helping the team and trying to come up with new ways, more efficient ways to get more money for our deals.
Yeah, that's amazing. And so let me ask you something, because you clearly know what differentiates the newbies, the beginners, from kind of like a sales pro like you. You've had obvious experience in your bike dealer and now doing wholesaling. So now that like when you're hiring on new people, like what really differentiates them from you and you being able to close that first deal, just like,
yeah, I think you make a good point with experience and confidence, right? Like a lot of people in this industry too, and wholesaling in general, like it's a hustle. Like it seems like this industry is kind of designed for hustlers. It's designed for people that can do this on their own, out of a spare bedroom, do it with a buddy, real low overhead. Like you can make money doing that, right? But there's no real structure to that. Like a lot of people don't even have scripts. Like we were the first people, and Eric spearheaded this, of a true sales process. Like people were, when we got into this industry, they're like, hey, like we just get sellers on the phone and we make offers within 5 to 10 minutes. And he always preached, like, you can't buy houses in 5 to 10 minutes. Like our sales process is 45 minutes long, when we're on the phones with these sellers. So having like a structured sales process and structured scripts, like in dispositions, I've never heard of anybody having a disposition script. And I created a script for every single scenario, no matter who we're talking to, where we can have an educated conversation with these buyers to then qualify them, get them in our buyers list, send them the deals that make sense, and get the most money for our deals. So I think it's just the confidence I had. And, I sold over 50,000 bikes at my bike shop in San Diego over the 13 years. And I was all in person, but the same process that Eric preaches on acquisitions when I got into this industry, all the same things aligned with what I kind of taught myself through trial and error with the bike shop. Because before then I just worked construction. I never did sales, but I just learned this process like by myself. And then when I finally like got into business with Eric and saw what he was teaching, it was like, oh, have been doing the same thing for over a decade. I just didn't know there was names for it, And I just kind of took that and developed my dispo process. And I think that's the key thing, though. It's like having the confidence that no, you can make the sale, and just learning as much as humanly possible so you sound educated on the phone, and having a structured script and a process to go by. Because if you just do this willy-nilly and just make calls blindly, it's going to be hard to get contracts. Like somebody like, we're going to call that seller and be a lot more, a lot more educated and have a process. They're going to trust us more. So,
Yeah.
having those scripts in that process is key.
Yeah, that's amazing. So walk me through some of the things that you did in the beginning, which was the normal way of doing dispo, and now an example of like the most elevated dispo strategy that you have that gets you the best results.
Yeah. So in the beginning, it was, anywhere I went, if anybody was teaching dispositions, it was so surface level. And,
Yeah.
I would go to these accelerator, weekend events, or I would go to these masterminds, and I was constantly asking people, I'm like, what KPIs do you look for in dispo? Like, what is your process? How do you find buyers?
Yeah.
And nobody could give me straight answers because nobody was really doing it, and it was like,
Yeah.
everybody's just like, we throw the property on Facebook Marketplace. We might reach out to some agents in the area. It was very surface level, and it took me hours of watching another person who I should have mentioned earlier, Jerry Norton, who I got to be good friends with now, who like
Yeah.
he on his YouTube videos, like I would just simply search like, how do I find a cash buyer for a wholesale deal? Jerry's videos would pop up. I'd watch the video and then I would implement it and try and find these cash buyers. But to
Yeah.
answer your question, some of the main things we do today is something that I'm kind of known for now is listing on the flat fee MLS, listing our wholesale deals. So not only we do some novations, but we also list, 80% of our wholesale deals on the MLS, which we started implementing when the interest rates went up last year. So the
Yeah.
interest rates went up, all the big buyers stopped by, and I had VIPs here in Raleigh that had 50 flips going on, and they're like, hey, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm not buying anything until some of these sell on the market, and I'm kind of scared. I'm over leveraged. So nobody was really buying, and all these new investors were not on anybody's buyers list. So I
Yeah.
just came into the office one day, and we had put some rural deals on the flat fee MLS and in the past. And I was like, well, why don't we just put everything on the MLS and try and find these new investors? So that's what we started doing. And, we couldn't sell a deal for a couple weeks. Once everything got listed, I think we sold like 12 the first week and like another 4 week too. So we sold like 16 deals in a couple weeks when everybody else had thrown their hands in the air and said, hey, interest rates went up, like nobody's going to buy for the next 3 to 6 months, which was untrue. You just didn't have the right buyers in front of these deals. Because,
Yeah.
now that all the big buyers stopped buying and all the hedge funds and all that, these guys had access to deals for the first time in years. And none of them are savvy enough to be on any buyers list. So they're using agents to find deals. And what
Yeah.
better marketplace than the MLS to list your deal and still
Yeah.
wholesale it? So you can wholesale a deal on the MLS. There's more rules now than there was back then, but
Yeah.
and I'm probably a cause of that because I teach it so much and do it so much that all these MLSs
Yeah.
are creating all these new rules. But as long as you have an attorney in fact and a pre-marketing clause in your contract, you can list in
Yeah.
most places.
Yeah. That sounds amazing. So you basically couldn't find any buyers, so you went out into the open market and you started putting your deals out there, and you found that there was other buyers willing to buy your deals, and you quickly got cleared up the deals that you were dispoing. That makes total sense.
Yeah, it was great. And what we noticed was, all these guys that were buying deals were new investors and they were excited to get these deals. And since they were always using agents and buying stuff on the market, cash to flip or hold or whatever they were doing, they're used to, the last few years, they were overpaying for properties, because
Yeah.
every other investor was offering 20, 30 grand more. So they were trying to get these deals. So they were paying, market price for these things. Whereas all my big buyers, when the interest rates went up, are like, hey, I'll take the deal if I can steal it, but I already got a bunch of stuff I got to clear out before I start buying again. So it was really the new investors that were paying the most for the deals. And it's kind of the same today. I mean, it's shifted a little bit, since then, where all my buyers are buying again, but we still sell a lot of our deals to new investors if they're the best and highest price.
That makes sense. So I want to talk a little bit about the sales conversation that Eric probably handles more, which is you obviously have those clauses in the contract, which is the pre-marketing clause and the attorney in fact. And so from the people that I deal with, I wholesale apartment buildings, usually they're a little bit savvier than most home buyers. And so so they want to write up the contract with their own attorney. And so sometimes these attorneys come back and have a non-friendly buyer contract. And so I just want to know how those conversations happen so that, someone like myself would be able to communicate, or you're educated, with be educated enough to be able to get through this, to get over it.
Yeah. So apartment buildings are a little different. I mean, a lot of people I know in that space actually, set the appointments over the phone and meet in person a lot of times because it is a harder close, because they are a little bit more savvy. They need to trust you a little bit more. So I get that. With us, we deal mostly almost all single family homes, especially here in the South, and the sellers just aren't as savvy. But kind of the objection with the pre-marketing clause of the attorney in fact we get from our sellers is, oh, I don't want, this property listed. And our rebuttal is, hey, this is just a pre-marketing listing. Just like when you're building a new house, you would have a coming soon listing on the MLS. We lock up 40 to 50 contracts every single month in our office, Mr. Seller, and we're just trying to streamline our process. So we like to pre-market your property on the MLS. We get a lot of interest from end buyers, from other investors that want to, purchase a rental home, or tenants if we're going to hold this as a rental. But it streamlines our process to know, hey, when we close on this property with you, we don't have to wait another 3 months to figure out what are we going to do with this property. We know we have an end buyer that wants us to rehab it. So we're going to do the necessary rehab to sell it to this end buyer. Or we know, hey, this is going to be a rental for us. Here's the rent rates, and this is what we have to do to get it ready to be a rental. So it just helps our process, Mr. Seller. Say I don't find an end buyer for the property while we're pre-marketing it, we're still going to close on it. It just helps our process because we do so many deals every single month.
Gotcha. Okay, I see. That definitely gets over the hunch there. That's amazing. And the attorney, in fact, is there anything that you guys do there that kind of makes it so that they're easily, digested, easy digest that marketing clause?
So the attorney, in fact, is a separate document, and we just put it at the end of our purchase agreement. So as we're going over the pre-marketing clause, if they have a hiccup there, we give our rebuttal that I just gave. And then at the very end of the purchase agreement with the seller, they're going to sign the purchase agreement. And literally the next page is the attorney in fact. So they're already used to clicking, initialing, signing, and then it just becomes another document that they're signing. We rarely get pushback on either one of these, either the pre-marketing or the attorney in fact. But if they do give any pushback on the attorney in fact, it just allows us to pre-market the property. That's it. We need this signed if we're going to list it on our website, if we're going to reach out to our financial partners, or if we're going to pre-market it. And we just leave it at that. And usually we can get those signed without a objection. But if we do, it's a very simple one, a simple rebuttal of just, hey, this is a document we need signed to pre-market the property, send it to our financial partners, or list it on our website. We're just trying to streamline this process.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
And always giving them a little nugget too, right, Julian? It's like, we cannot do this, but I'm sure you want to close as soon as possible. And if we can streamline this with this process, we do it on every single deal. We rarely get pushback, Mr. Seller, but if we can get all this signed, I can even probably move the closing date up for you because it just streamlines our process.
Oh, yeah. That motivates them to get the money sooner. So they go ahead and sign it off. That's great. I want to talk about building a team because obviously, it was just you and Eric in the beginning and Shyla, but then you started scaling and you have done, quite a lot of wholesale fees. So I want to know, like, how does it look like to have that first hire? Like, what are you looking for? And, what is it that you look for in your team member so that you're building something that's scalable, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, first and foremost, you just need good leadership, and good training. We consistently train, every single week, every single day in our office, both teams. And, when we first hired, it was, we wanted to go acquisitions heavy first to make sure we're getting our deal flow enough to where we can hire that dispo person. So once we had, two acquisitions agents hired up and trained up, that's when we decided, all right, let's bring on another dispo. Because in our office, I really like a 2-to-1 ratio on closers to dispo, because they're locking up so many deals. I want my dispo agents to be working at least 10 deals each at any given time. So in our office, and this is going to change for each company, but for our office, for every 2 closers we have, they're locking up enough deals for 1 disposition person to work. So we like to keep the ratio of 6 and 3 in our office. And when we're hiring and interviewing, I just want somebody with some sales experience and somebody that's money hungry. Like, that's what you're looking for in sales. Somebody that's teachable, that's motivated, that's money motivated, and somebody that has a motor. Somebody that you can steer their rudder in the right direction. Maybe they have sales experience in another industry, they had another mentor, but it's like, as long as they have good energy and they're willing to work and put in the effort, like, I can steer them in the right direction with our process. So that's really what we're looking for. And looking for somebody, in our office, you can make $100,000 a year easily if you stick to the process and do the minimums. So, hiring somebody that has hit those numbers before and knows what it takes, to where, they're going to come in and hit the ground running, and they're like, hey, not everybody makes 6 figures a year, but I know what it takes to get there because I've done it before. I think that's important too. Like, whoever you're hiring, whatever you're paying them, it's good to have somebody that you're hiring that has made that kind of money before and knows what it takes to get there.
Yeah, that sounds great. So it sounds like you're incentivized by the payment structure, and you do it very well by making sure that they're a culture fit. And so, getting into the payment structure, what kind of structure do you do? Is it commission only? Is it a base and commission?
Yeah, so we do a base for everybody on the sales team. I think a base is really important because 2 things, like, everybody has ups and downs when it comes to months in any sales position. Like, you're going to have bang out months, you're going to have slow months. So on the slow months, I don't want people panicking that they're not going to be able to, buy groceries or gas. So I think a base salary is important on any sales team. And also, when you're hiring, it's like, if you didn't have a base, how many people can, it's a pipeline business. Sales is a pipeline. And especially in wholesaling, when you're waiting for properties to close, like, nobody gets paid until that property closes. And our average days to close is over 45 days right now. So if you're hiring somebody, say they even get a deal that week that they get hired, they're not going to see that commission check for a couple of months. So if they're not getting at least a base, like, who is your hiring pool that can last, 2 months without getting paid? Most people in this country are paycheck to paycheck. So if they're not getting some type of income when you're hiring them, it's going to really make that hiring pool small for you, where somebody can float themselves for a couple months.
Yeah, that's right. That makes sense. So having a base and commission, that makes total sense.
And with the commission structure, it's, basically everybody on the team, whether you're acquisitions or dispo, you have the opportunity to make 6 figures. Like, with the KPIs that are required and set in place, with the marketing we spend on, and with the processes that we've come up with, and with the systems we have in place, like, if you stick to the process on either team and you're hitting your KPIs, you should be right there at that $100,000 with commissions and your base salary. So I think that's, for me, it's like, I want everybody on the sales floor to make $100,000, not only for myself because it means I'm going to make a lot of money, but also for them. Well, it's like, I think
Yeah.
that's a great number for somebody in sales to make.
Yeah, yeah, of course. I agree with that. And you mentioned that your goal for this year is to make $5 million in assignments. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's the goal. Very attainable with what we have right now. Just adding a few more team members in place. But yeah, I think that's very doable. We did about 3.3 million last year. The year before that, which was our first year, we did 2.6 million. And then, we were in business for about 6 months, the year before that, where we did, I think, 1.6 million. So we're continuing to grow. Had a lot of, it's a growing business. It's kind of a startup still. So,
Yeah.
there's a lot of growing pains. Right now, we're hiring our first real sales manager. So we've been doing interviews all week. We got a couple more the rest of this week, and we're going to make a decision early next week to bring on a high-level sales manager that's going to be on the floor, training, hiring, all that stuff, holding everybody accountable on a daily basis. That's their full-time job. Because right now, Eric's on a Zoom call. I'm on this podcast with you. Thank you very much. But now our sales team is without a leader on the floor, which happens a
Oh,
lot because me and Eric are busy, and we have our own stuff going on with our brands and all that, and our social media and other opportunities, and just day-to-day stuff in this office where we just can't be on the sales floor 24/7. So having that, full-time sales manager that's in charge of the teams and keeping everybody on track and keeping everybody good with training and holding everybody accountable to the KPIs and hiring new talent. I think it's very doable without spending any more money on marketing this year. We can hit that 5 million pretty easy.
yeah. Yeah, I love it. I love it. A lot of people don't talk big numbers like this. So, your confidence and it's just, it's obviously, it's a gift, it's valuable.
Yeah,
So I want
it's because
to,
we've proved it, Julian. It's like, we're not even 3 years into this thing, and within 5 years we want to be hitting $10 million. I mean, that's the goal.
yeah,
And I think it's extremely doable to get there with the right people in place. We have the right sales processes. Who better than Eric Cline to handle, closers and acquisitions? I believe I'm the best there is in dispositions and a process.
yeah,
I'm just confident because we still do this every single day. A lot of
yeah,
these gurus out there that everybody knows, ask them to see their wholesale numbers. They can't show them because they don't have a wholesale operation. I don't know a
yeah,
single guru out there, besides like Nick Perry, who's a friend of mine who kills it. There's just not a
yeah,
lot of people out there that are still wholesaling and having a lot of success with it.
yeah,
So, for us to be on the floor all the time, still taking calls, you'll see on my social media and Eric's social media, we're still taking calls with sellers, buyers, everything, and locking up deals and locking out deals. So I know it's doable.
yeah, yeah. That's amazing. All right, so I want to touch base a little bit into the meat and potatoes of your expertise, which is finding the buyer. And you mentioned that you have sales scripts that you do use for whether you're talking to someone in Investor Lift or on the MLS and all this. And I just want to make a contrast of what is the difference between acquisitions and dispo, like, and how the sales is different.
Yeah, great question. So, I always say this in acquisitions and dispo, the contrast is, when we're hiring a closer and with our closer script for acquisitions, like there's a lot of empathy that goes into those scripts where you're digging into that seller's pain point. They might have been going through a divorce. They lost a loved one. They inherited a property. Their health is bad. There's a lot of things that you got to really empathize with a seller. You got to get them to trust you. They got to feel through a telephone that you have a heart. You're on their side. You're trying to help them out of a situation. Like, let me
Yeah.
hold your hand, Mr. Seller, and get you this money that you so desperately need. And you're constantly hitting those pain points through the call of like, hey, you know, I know this is a tough decision. I'm going to help you through it. This is the best decision for you. And it's a lengthy conversation. You know, you're on the phone with these sellers sometimes. You know, I talk to sellers too still. I'm on the phone with these sellers for over an hour sometimes trying to get them to sign a contract, because I know in my heart this is the only access they have to money, and they need the money, is selling their house. So when you believe that, and you believe you're helping these people, which we definitely are, you can, you know, that empathy is going to shine through. On the dispo side, you got to be a little more gritty, a little more hard nosed on yes and no and negotiations, because these investors, you're not going to talk to a cash buyer for an hour negotiating a contract. Like, either these guys are going to try and beat you up on the price. You got to stick to your guns. You know something they don't. This is gold. There's a million offers on this thing, all pending a walkthrough. If you don't want it at the full asking, hey, we'll get you on the next one, but this thing is going to sell. So there's all these strategies within the script of, hey, you know, this is the price we're going to get for this property. It just got sent out today only to VIPs. Like, the benefit you have of being a VIP is you get to buy it today, because you know, if you don't, I'm going to list it on the MLS tomorrow. An agent's going to bring a buyer. I'm still going to get my full asking price for it. And the reason I know that is because in my listing I just sent you, I have all the comps showing why this property is worth this right now. And it gives a summary of what is the investment. You can buy it for this. You can rehab it. You can make 50 grand on the flip. You can buy it, hold it, refinance it. You can cash flow $500 a month. Like, all that stuff, showing that investor like why this is a good deal, with what the strategy might be and the comps you put in there. And then just having the confidence knowing, hey, my process is so ironclad, I'm getting this price for it. If it's not with you, it might not happen today, but a week from now, somebody's going to come at this price because I know it works at this price. So you got to be a little more hard nosed on the dispo process. It's a lengthier process than acquisitions, but the phone calls are not as lengthy. So we get a lot of investors from, like you said, a lot of different, you know, types of investors, whether they're our VIPs, whether we're cold calling investors, somebody's reaching out on Investor Lift, or an agent's calling in from the MLS. We need to have a script and a structure for every single one of those investors. It's going to be a lot of the same stuff, just structured different, you know? So we want to educate all the agents that are calling in off the MLS on what a wholesale deal is and what our process is, make them feel comfortable, and then get their buyer out there. Investor Lift, we know, hey, we send stuff out on Investor Lift. They're not always investors on there, a lot of JV guys on there, which is perfectly fine. They just got to be upfront with us. So we want to vet those buyers and put them into our buyers list. And then if we're cold calling, it's, hey, we're going to qualify ourselves in the beginning, and then we're going to qualify this buyer, give them the benefits of working with us, and then shuffle them into our CRM for our buyers list. So no matter what platform we use, we're funneling all these buyers into our CRM, so we own that data. That's another thing people don't think about. Their entire buyers list is on Investor Lift, which is great. Investor Lift is the best disposition platform on the planet outside of the MLS, but you want to own that data. You know, Robert Wensley owns enough data. Okay. You want to grab that data and put it into your CRM so you own it. So now you have access to those buyers.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. And it sounds like you've thought about this and created scripts for all of these different kind of scenarios. And I want to know kind of what is the process that you use in order to get the sales script for these buyers? Did you follow a sales trainer before they kind of give you the template of how to structure a sales script, or was this completely made up on your own? And can you explain kind of like the way it is structured a bit, just in an overview?
Yeah. So like I said in the beginning, no disposition scripts, no real disposition process from anybody. So we started from scratch. When we were struggling in the beginning to kind of figure out a disposition process, you know, I'm trying to figure out, you know, how to talk to these buyers and how to send the deals out, when to send them reduced, what platforms to use. You know, Eric already had a sales script for acquisitions, and I came in one morning and he's like, dude, we just need to tweak this thing for dispositions? And I was like, absolutely.
Mm.
So, I mean, who better than Eric Cline to help me with the first script? And that's exactly what he did. He helped me structure our first cold calling script for dispositions. And then I spent another couple weeks kind of tweaking that. It's kind of the same process we use with acquisitions, with, an intro. Eric always preaches, the 5 sales step process, or the 5-step sales process. We just kind of tweak it a little bit to ours, to where we're going to introduce ourselves. We're going to qualify ourselves, qualify the buyer, tell them, the benefits of working with us, get their information, vet them, put them into our CRM, then talk about the property, send them all the details of the property. And then the real close is just getting either a soft offer out of them or getting them to walk the property, because I don't get a lot of sight unseen offers unless they're VIP buyers. We do some one-offs, but most of the time when you're cold calling a buyer, it's somebody you've never talked to. They're going to want to at least get some eyes on the property before they put an offer in. So we're really pushing hard to get some walkthroughs done or get a soft offer pending a walkthrough, stuff like that. If it's my VIPs, it's a way different conversation. We don't really have a script for the VIPs. It's basically like, hey, Mr. VIP buyer, I just sent you this one in Raleigh, North Carolina. I know it's super hot. I'm calling you first. Like, take a look at the pictures while I'm on the phone with you. Is this an area you want to buy? Because I saw you just flipped a couple properties in the neighborhood. Like, send me a sight unseen offer. Let's get this thing rolling. Like, because they know, because they're so familiar with our process. Like, if they don't buy it that day one and it's a hot property in a hot area and they're a VIP, hey, we're going to send it out on Investor Lift the next day. We're going to list it on the MLS the next day. We're going to cold call it, all the buyers in the area. Like, this thing's going to hit so many people after this day. Like, it's going to get sold. You're going to miss out on an opportunity. So yeah, it's to answer your question, Eric helped us with the first one. And then I just kind of tweaked it. And I've been doing that ever since. I tweak the scripts probably twice a year when they need to be tweaked for the market. And I just came up with here's another thing that nobody ever talks about is reductions. Like, the disposition team handles the reductions. When we go through our entire process and we maybe lock the property up a little too high because we didn't see the photos until we got the photos, and the seller might not have been honest about the condition. Or it's a market we're unfamiliar with and we locked it up too high. I mean, these things happen in wholesaling. And we get, in my department in dispo, we need 3 to 5 offers on a property before we can assign it, if those offers are under our asking price. So once we get some offers in, we know what the buyers are going to pay for this thing, and the numbers don't make sense for what we locked it up for. We're going to now call the seller on the dispo side of things. My dispo agents will call the seller, follow a reduction script, and get a reduction on that property to get it assigned. Super important. You got to do reductions in wholesaling. It's a tough call. I hated doing them because I didn't have any structure to it. And then finally, I just came in one day and I was like, what works every time on a reduction and what doesn't? I listened to a bunch of recordings. I had people in my community send me some recordings too. And I was like, all right, what's working and what's not working on these reductions? And everything that does work, I kind of tweaked and put into a script. Now, when we have to do a reduction, everybody's super confident because they have all their ducks in a row. They have a structured script to go off of. They're giving the seller the benefits of doing the reduction and getting this thing closed out. And, we're getting these reductions. So, on an average month, we can get 50 to 100 grand in reductions to make properties, work for our buyers and our sellers and get these things to the closing table.
Yeah. Yeah, those scripts are golden, I bet. And those scripts are available in the Misfits community. Is that right?
Yeah, they're available in the Misfits. They're available on the disposition course that I sell. I sell them individually. But really everything is through my social media. The Tony Mont on Instagram. You can click through my links on my profile. It has all that stuff. I do have the Misfits community. We meet every other week on Wednesday nights at 6:30 Eastern for, I always say it's a 2-hour Zoom call, but it always turns into 2.5, 3 hours because I just love doing them.
Yeah.
But there's about 50 people in that community. We have a private Facebook group where everybody shares ideas and helps solve problems. We're always putting new documents and scripts in the community that helps everybody. I have all these connections all over wholesaling. So when somebody has an issue with a certain thing, I can get the answers and we can give it to them. So that's been I've just been building this community over the last like 6 months maybe. And it's about 50 strong right now. And it's a great community. I can't stress enough how much I love that community, because it just keeps me sharp too. Like the more you teach, the more you learn. There's a lot of smart people in this community. There's people that do a couple deals a month. There's people that do 10 to 20 deals a month. So there's a lot of knowledge in this small community, and we all help each other. And right now I'm refilming my disposition course. So the old course is still available. And every time I upload a new video, you get it for life once you sign up for the course. But the old course is just a bunch of Zoom calls with a group of people that I did. And the new one is just one-on-one with me teaching our process and then doing a instructional video, a Loom video on my computer where I say, this is our process, this is what we do. Now let me show you how we actually do it in real time. Whether that's, creating the listings we send out on Investor Lift and our CRM, how we email them out, how we text them out. All the scripts are in there. We go over the scripts, how we run comps, how we find cash buyers, how we find hedge funds. Like literally everything we do in our process is broken down, really consumable on the new course. And that is about 60% filmed right now. It should be complete in the next, 30 to 60 days, depending on my time I have to commit to it. But anybody that signs up for the course, they get all that stuff for life, so it's a one-time fee. The course is $2,500, but if you DM me on Instagram, I always got a 50% off coupon that I can send you. And then, it's once you get the course, every time I upload new videos to it, which I'll do in perpetuity because the market's always changing. When we started doing, reductions, we put a reduction video on there. When we started doing flat fee MLS, put the flat fee MLS on there, instructional video. And all the scripts we do are always uploaded on there. So you literally get everything on that course.
That's amazing. Yeah, guys. And he mentioned, there was nobody teaching this kind of stuff. He had to pioneer and create all these sales scripts for all these different scenarios. So I think that's valuable. Definitely check that out, guys. And so now that you're wanting to do this $5 million a year operation, can you tell me kind of like what the exit goal is? Like, are you guys just going to do this and sell the company? Or like, do you guys have a bigger plan in mind of becoming investors in the future? What's on your mind, really?
Yeah, I mean, the goal right now is get this team structured with management in place, to just get more consistently hit the 5 million, eventually, hit the 10 million. Hey, if we can exit it after that, great. I'm not really looking that far into the future, to be honest with you. It would be nice to exit for sure. I mean, that was kind of our goal coming into this, like, let's build this thing and exit it. But now that we're kind of in the middle of it, it's like, man, let's just get to 5 million. Let's just worry about this step. And then after that, let's get to 8 million. Let's get to 10 million. And once we're hitting those numbers, I mean, it would be great to exit another company and ride off into the sunset, or, obviously do something else. But in the meantime, we're starting to flip a lot more properties. I'm kind of spearheading that. So we flipped probably 8 or 9 properties in the last year and a half. I've done that all virtually. I found, agents to work with. I found contractors to work with. So I'm scaling that this year. I want to do 2 every single month. We got 2 right now that one's finished and on the market. The other one should be finished next month and on the market. So, just scaling that side of things. Also hiring for a JV department. A lot of people send me their deals they can't get rid of. And with the deal flow that we have currently in our office, I don't have the capacity to take on a ton of JV. But we're building out that team. I'm currently, interviewing for that team as well. So we're going to be building out a JV department to help people sell their deals. And then, just continuing the education and the learning myself. I like to speak, public speak on these stages. I'm lucky enough where people ask me to speak at their events, which is great. And just want to teach dispositions to as many people as possible because I want everybody to win. There's enough houses out there for all of us to eat, so I just want everybody to do well in this industry. And if I could be a small part of that, that's what I find the most rewarding.
That's amazing. I want to talk about a little bit your tagline. It's "See you at the top." Kind of like, what's the background on that? What's your mindset? Because it resonates with me, and so I just want to know what kind of your vision is when you're talking to someone on the other side of the screen. What you're thinking of, when you talk to them.
It's and I think it stemmed from kind of my personal life and business, where see at the top isn't, hey, I'm already there, I'll see you when you get there. It's we're all climbing this mountain, and I'm going to continue doing that probably till the day I die. And it kind of goes hand in hand with the stuff I like to do, like I was a big mountain biker for a long time. I lived in California for a long time, got really into mountain biking. I'm really into hiking. I started doing Spartan races. Like the mountains is where I find, my peace. And it's always just such a good challenge. I look at a huge mountain as a challenge, and it could be a metaphor or in reality. It's like, how do I get to the top of that damn thing? Like, what do I got to do? Like, you got to dig deep. You got to learn. You got to go through pain. You got to do something that nobody else is willing to do, or very few people are willing to do. And I've been a very disciplined person for a long time. And when I put my sights on something like that, climbing this mountain, it's going to happen. And I can get through pain, really head fast and head strong. And that's the message I want to give to everybody is, we see this mountain in front of us, whether it's building a business, whether it's physical, whether it's mental. I talk about mental health a lot. And it's like, hey, I'm going to be right there with you climbing this thing. Like, I'm not there yet. I'm not at the top. I might be a little further up this mountain, but I'm going to throw you a rope and help you along with me. So that's how I came up with it. I'll see you at the top. It means, we're all in this journey together. We all have the same goal, and we're all going to get there.
That's amazing. Yeah, it's lovely, to be honest. Great tagline there. Now,
Thanks.
when people are starting up, and maybe they're looking to get their first wholesale deal under contract, and they want to dispo, what are some quick, beginner level strategies that you think could get them to dispo this deal without potentially getting into some more of the complicated strategies that you teach?
Yeah. So I always preach to everybody that's just starting off. Like, if you're a one-man show and you're locking up deals and acquisitions, I'm always going to tell you, like, find somebody that can help you JV that deal. Because what happens with, a pipeline business like this, if you got your marketing turned on and you get a contract, if you spend all your time trying to sell that deal, now you're just caught in this hamster wheel, because you're going to get a contract, you're going to lock up a deal. Now you're going to spend the next week or two trying to sell that deal. And then you go back to acquisitions after you assign that contract. And now you're at square one again. You spend a week or two locking up another deal, and then a week or two selling that deal. So if you can find somebody to JV with, even if they're taking, 40% of that deal, at least you're getting that money coming in and getting that cash flow, and you can keep your pipeline going. You'll make more money locking up more deals, even if you're JVing, right? So I always tell everybody, start with sales, get Eric sales training, get really good at acquisitions. Once you're dialed in on acquisitions and you're consistently locking up contracts, hire your first acquisitions manager. And then you two can lock up deals once they're up to speed, and you can leave them on their own for a week or two locking up deals, and they'll be consistent. That's when you start learning the dispo process and you start dispoing your own deals, right? And then you just buy my training. disposition training, and it'll tell you everything you need to know. But to not beat around the bush, like one thing I would tell anybody trying to get rid of a deal is, like, look at your cash buys in that neighborhood in the last year, 2 years if you have to, and skip trace the cash buyers that have bought cash in that area. And also, if it was bought cash on the market, find that agent that they used to buy it, because it's, sometimes it's hard to find a phone number to a cash buyer simply by using, open corporates, if it's an LLC, or fast people search, or both. Like, sometimes those numbers aren't accurate, no matter what we do. So what number is accurate is if they use the buying agent to buy this house cash, you have their number right there on Zillow or on PropStream or on the MLS data. So you can get a hold of that agent and say, hey, I see your client bought, 123 Main Street for cash. I got one around the corner at the same price. How do I get this deal in front of them? Might have to pay a little commissions to that agent, but if they work with one investor, they probably work with 5. So it's easier to get rid of that deal. So it's really just digging into the data and finding out who's flipping, who's buying and holding that area, and get that deal in front of them. I would say that's the number one tactic that's not going to cost you really any money or a lot of money, is just finding who bought cash and reaching out to them and getting them in front of this deal.
Yeah, that sounds great. Now that we know how to dispo a deal pretty quickly using this strategy, can you, some of Eric's strategy, can you talk about how you guys went from, Eric just being the one locking up the deals to finding another person to lock up the deals? Because that seems like in a movement or a company, like, the first follower is the most important, because if you don't have that, you don't have a team, right? Or like a movement.
Right.
So what was that first person for Eric that really helped get this thing rolling?
Yeah, like our first 3 closers, the first person we hired is no longer with us, but he was in the property management industry, right?
Yeah.
And he was just sick of property management. A lot of these people that get their real estate license end up in property management because they realize being an agent isn't all it's cracked up to be. Or they're just not good at it, so he was a property manager for a long time, wanted a sales position. We hired him on. He referred another person to us, and he was with us for about 9 months. And the girl he referred was with us for about 1.5 years. And then they referred another one of their friends that was with us for another 9 months or so. So like our first 3 closers came from hiring one person and getting a couple referrals. And, 2 of those people were in property management. Another one was selling wedding dresses. And we just, they stuck to the process. They didn't know any better. They didn't have a ton of sales experience. They didn't have any phone sales experience. So all they knew was what we taught them, and what we taught them was good information. And, we had 3 closers in the beginning that were locking up deals, and, Eric could step back a little bit and just start managing them. And then once we had them, I hired another person for dispo to help me. And I was hand in hand with the first dispo person for a few months until we started hiring more dispo agents. So, you got to have those deals coming in from acquisitions to work the deals in dispo. Now, we just let go of a couple people on acquisition, so we're down to 4, but we're actively hiring those 2 other seats. We still got 3 dispo here. And these guys are, they're sharks with the process and the phones. They have similar KPIs as acquisitions. They're making 60 dials a day, 3 hours of talk time. They're sending out text messages, emails, sticking to the process. So, the first few hires was acquisitions. And then ever since then, we've just kept continuing to grow and get the right people in the right seats. People that don't want to be here don't last long, and we hire somebody that does.
It's amazing. Cool. Awesome. Now, talking a little bit about you and some of the things that you subscribe to on your daily life. Obviously, you're you're fit, right? You're in shape. So that's probably one of your pillars. But what other things do you do in your life that keep you to be in the highest performance state that you can be, so that you're more productive throughout, your time?
Yeah, I stick to a strict routine,
Hmm.
and it's one of those things where, I've suffered from anxiety my whole life. Like when I was younger, I used to get like paralyzing anxiety where I couldn't even leave my bedroom, you know?
Yeah.
And I didn't really know where that was coming from. I could never pinpoint it. I have a pretty traumatic childhood, so I'm sure it was a accumulation of a lot of things.
Yeah.
But I never wanted to take any medicine. I just wanted to work through it and figure out how to do it
Yeah.
on my own. And what I learned was, staying consistent with working out, consistent with diet. It's all diet and exercise. There's
Yeah.
no free lunches in nature. Like there's no magic pill that's going to get you to where you want to be. It's all internal and it's all just hard work. But I wake up at the same time every single day. I do cardio in the morning. I make my bed. I wear the same outfit every day. It's just a different color. When I find the right shorts and t-shirt, I just buy every color. Now I don't got to think about it. And I'm just super structured. Like I wake up at the
Yeah.
exact same time. I have coffee for a half an hour. I do my, Spanish lesson in the morning.
Oh yeah.
I go for my run or I do my stairs. And then, I have my healthy shake in the morning, which everybody DMs me every day. What's in that thing? It's like, there's so much in it. I can't even list it right now. But I do my shake in the morning, take a cold shower, and then I'm off to work. So I'm waking
Yeah.
up about 5:30 every single morning. I'm out the door around 8, and I'm to work around 8:30, and then I work 9-10 hours every single day. Get off of work, I'll hit the gym and do weights. I come home, eat another healthy dinner, and then and I have all my meal prep during the day too, so I don't got to think about it.
Oh
Chicken and
yeah.
rice. And it's a pretty boring structure to most people, but it keeps me on the straight and narrow. If I have any downtime, that's where like stress and anxiety kicks in. So as long as I stay busy and busy with positive things, and I don't drink, I might have, on average I might have 1 or 2 drinks a month. Like I'm just not a
Yeah.
drinker. I don't mess my brain up with the alcohol. I just stay consistent with my day. I don't waste any time. I don't watch television. I bought my first TV in like 15 years, like 3 months ago. I think I've turned it on twice. I don't even know what to watch. So I'm constantly just
Don't even know how
listening
to
to
use a
books.
controller.
Yeah, I had to have my assistant come over and show me how to get on Netflix. But yeah, I don't waste my time with that kind of stuff. I don't even listen to
Yeah.
music while I'm driving. I listen to a book. I listen to a podcast, something I'm going to learn something from.
Yeah.
I think I wasted so much time in my youth that, now that I have control over it, I want to fill my day with learning. And it could be learning about real estate and business and wholesaling. It could be learning about mindset stuff. It could be learning about fitness. It could be learning about, somebody that went through a struggle that wrote a book. It could be history.
Yeah.
But it's something that I can learn. And then, all that stuff transfers over the phone when you're doing sales too. The more well-rounded you are, the more you travel, the more you experience things, the more you learn about cultures and other people and history and every aspect of life, the more you can have a conversation with somebody. If they steer a conversation in a direction that you might have a little bit of knowledge in, now you can find common ground. And I have found a lot of that with building relationships, whether it's in sales, in business, or outside of business, or these great friendships I have. It all comes down to, finding something we relate to. Is that UFC fights, or is it World War II history? Is it fitness, or is it motorcycles? Is it off-roading? Is it mountain biking? Is it hiking? Is it traveling? Like I'm well-rounded, and I think that's really important when it transfers, to sales and finding common ground and building that rapport.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. It sounds like it's not boring, but it's simple what you do. It's just,
Mm.
and you do it every day, and that's what keeps you your edge.
Yeah,
Yeah.
people want a magic pill. They want an answer of like, this is what you have to do to become a millionaire. This is what you have to do to be truly happy. it comes down to diet and exercise, and that could be literally diet and exercise to stay fit and healthy. It could mean diet and exercise in business. It's just nuts and bolts. It's like, how do you make more money? You work hard, you stick to a process. That's it.
Yeah.
You know, you can't make more money by sitting at home. You can't make more money by calling in sick. You can't make more money by slacking. It's all just hard work, you know, and that's in every aspect of life and business. So it's not a flashy answer. It's just, you know, getting to work, because what's the alternative, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And so wrapping up here, but how do you spend your money? What are some of the, great luxuries that you give yourself making all this money? Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody asks me that because I don't I don't really spend a ton of money.
Yeah.
You know, it's I love money, right? I do this for money. But you know, I'm not somebody that's going to go buy a fancy sports car. You know, I bought my first Rolex, when I made, I think it was at the bike shop. The first month I made 50 grand in a month. I was like, I'm going to reward myself with a Rolex. Right.
Yeah.
So I bought a Rolex like 9 years ago. I just bought another one this last year. And I just bought a new truck, you know,
Yeah.
but it's not,
Cool.
I don't have anything super flashy. Like, you know, I have a pickup truck. I got an old Jeep I paid 5 grand for that I worked on for, you know, a year and a half to get
Yeah.
going. Like, that's the kind of stuff I like. I got a
Yeah.
couple Harleys, you know, I got an off-road truck out in San Diego. I got an RV out there. So when I go out to the desert, I'm comfortable,
Yeah.
but it's all simple stuff. Like, I'm not a flashy guy at all. I invest a lot of my money, well, pretty much all of it.
Yeah.
And, you know, for me, making a ton of money isn't for the next flashy thing, because I know that doesn't bring me happiness, and that's no slack on anybody else. I mean, if that's who you are and that's what you like, then do whatever you want. Like, that's perfectly fine. I'm happy for you. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, my business partner is Eric Cline. He's got a Rolls Royce and a lake house and 6 Rolexes. So, I mean, I'm
Yeah.
happy for him when he gets something he likes. Like, I truly feel joy for him, like that. I know how happy that makes him, and I'm happy for him. But on the flip side, when he sees me buy an old Jeep that doesn't run, and he sees the joy I get when I come in on Monday morning, and I'm like, dude, I spent all weekend busting my knuckles on this thing, and I got the new exhaust put on, I put a new intake on it. He doesn't know what I'm talking about, but he's
Oh,
like,
wow.
dude, I'm stoked for you. You know, I love that
Dude,
you do that. You find so much joy in that.
that's awesome.
So for me, it's, you know, the money aspect of it is investing, you know, my money to the point where I can buy back my time and my freedom. You know, I'm 40 years old. I don't want to work till I'm 70. You know, I do want to work till I'm 70, but I want to work in what I want to work on. And I
Mhm.
want that freedom of having enough investments out there and enough money coming in where it can free up some time where I can start traveling again a lot more. You know, I'm a big traveler. I love adventure. I go down to Mexico. I off-road for a week at a time down in Baja.
Yeah.
You know, I just love that kind of stuff. I went out to Cuba years ago,
Yeah.
and I crossed through Mexico. I brought my road bike with me. I road biked 500 miles around central Cuba in 10 days, just stopping in these villages and staying in these, you know, little motels and stuff. Like, that's the kind of stuff I like to do.
That's incredible. That's really cool, man. That's great.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, definitely adventure, outdoors person, and the fact that you work on your cars, that's really cool. So wrapping up here. Again, where can people find more about you? What's the best place to find more information, free, and what's the paid version as well, and yeah, and where can they find
Yeah.
Eric? Oh,
So,
yeah,
yeah, everything is, you know, the only social media I have really is Instagram. I put a reel out every single day. Geo, who's my storyteller, content creator, he's in the office every day, and he does a great job of making me look presentable on Instagram. So shout out to Geo.
yeah,
But you know, he edits and posts my reels for me every day. I respond to the messages and the DMs on there. So you can follow me at the Tony Mont. on Instagram. Pretty much everything's through there. You can always DM me on there, comment. All my scripts are on my Instagram and my profile. The Dispo course, the Misfits community that I have is on there as well. But that's really the only place to get a hold of me is Instagram. And,
Yeah.
you know, literally what anybody needs help with, you know, they reach out to me on there and I can steer them in the right direction. And it's not all a money grab. Like I help, you know, I always tell people this, it's like, you know, you can either buy my Dispo course, so it's all centralized, or you can look at the last year and a half of my reels and probably get enough information for free to dispo a deal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I put out a ton of content on there. So, you know, when I do come up with a script or something, it's cheap. Like new scripts are $97. The Misfits community that I meet with, you know, twice a month and have the private Facebook group for, they get access to all that stuff and they get the calls with me. They get the Facebook group. That's $197 a month. The Dispo course, like I said, 2,500, but you know, you can pull my arm and get it for 1,250. It's like, you know, I do all these things. I want them to be affordable because, you know, I know how much, I know how much it'll benefit somebody. And if it was too expensive, it wouldn't benefit enough people. So I keep everything, you know, very affordable for everybody. And I try to give as much free content and knowledge as possible, obviously.
That's amazing. Great. So you guys know where to reach him at. It's Instagram at the Tony Mont, and he's got a community, which is really cool. You guys should check out. And it's been a pleasure, to be honest. It means everything to me that you're here. And, I appreciate you sharing your knowledge and being generous with your time. So I hope to get a lot of feedback from this podcast and also to do a future follow-up, potentially, down the road to see, I'm sure you're going to hit your $5 million goal. And so I just want to, people like to hear ongoing stories. So potentially that could be a cool next thing.
I would love it. Yeah. Hold me accountable, Julian. So thanks for having me on, dude. I love doing these. I appreciate you reaching out and having me on, and I'll see everybody at the top.
Hey, let's go. All right. Bye, guys.